All right, welcome to Victory, the podcast. I'm Doug Ellin.
Kevin Dillon.
Kevin Connolly still saying our names after 814 episodes.
Yeah.
If people don't
That's
know.
what people do. So anyway, there's
No,
so
they don't.
much happening at Action Park. We're gonna have DB Sweeney, and great actor, and
Long Island guy.
Long Island guy,
Hockey guy.
And as much as we're gonna find
the
out,
only non-Long Island guy here.
as much as we're gonna find, oh, that's right. Sorry.
I'm Westchester, where all the cool kids are.
But DB knows you a long time, so as much as we want to
Yeah,
find out about
many
DB,
years.
we might get some.
I was going to say, we might get a gem or two about Dillon.
I'm
I
sure
always like
you
to have
will.
Dillon's buddies on here.
But also, I feel pretty good. DB had an allergic reaction yesterday. He was shooting something, and
Yeah.
you guys were going to record this without me. And today, so was it a reaction, or you didn't want to do it without me?
We really thought we could not
No,
pull.
I couldn't wait to do one without you to just really crush one.
Yeah, listen, I said, yesterday I clearly was not at 100%.
Yeah, no,
so
you were
I was
hard
not.
coughing all over
No,
me.
it's always great having you, Doug.
Thank you.
You're
We need Doug's our point guard.
He's
I
our
could
Aaron
say it.
Judge of the.
Well, I don't know about that. He's like he's our Jose Trevino. He's more of a Jose Trevino type. But
So major stuff happening at Action Park Media.
But
Can
hold
talk
on, I
about
want
this?
to tell you this. So yeah, all right, let's talk about that
All right,
first
so-
because I want to get to DB's reaction.
So
as an Irishman.
Stock Tip, who we talked about this yesterday. Someone rudely said that Stock Tip brings nothing to the table, which is a disgrace. And
He brings an occasional coffee. So that's
Well,
it.
he shows up for you, Dillon.
He just started getting it right, though. Usually he forgets the cream or the sugar.
or he doesn't know the difference between sugar and Splenda.
Okay, but
these
yeah,
times
no,
the guy does
exactly.
not. Dillon does not
I'm
like
sugar. I'm a sugar
Splenda in
guy.
his coffee.
But Stock
Sugar.
Tip brought a new I'm more excited about. He brought a new show into the studio, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But
we realized that we've been leaving money on the table by we have a lot of studio space. We got 2 studios and they're not always being used. So let's bring some people in.
Yeah.
Let's make some money.
okay, but I'm really
Revenue
excited
stream.
about this because first of all, and I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but she's from the ghetto of Switzerland.
We're all a little
Sounds like an oxymoron.
shocked.
Is that what that is?
I had no idea what
Is that an
they were
oxymoron?
ghettos.
Is that an oxymoron?
I don't know. I don't want to sound ignorant because we sound like stupid Americans. Maybe there are places
It's
in
a small
Switzerland.
chalet.
You get
It's not too
carjacked
fancy.
on your skis. I have
Can't
no idea.
imagine it's Compton.
They give you Hershey's chocolate instead of the good stuff.
That's DB, by the way, with the
DB.
good line. That was not Dillon
That
throwing
was
that. But what I was more excited about, and I may ask her to come on the Ramblon podcast. Mindset is what her podcast is going to be about. And she looked at me for 5 seconds, said I could fix you in 60 minutes.
I
Well,
said,
yeah,
no, it's
good
gonna-
luck with
It's going to be
that.
a 5-part episode for that one.
You couldn't fix it in
5-part
60
episode.
days.
I would love it. By the way, I would put in the 60 days. So that's coming.
I would love to see how she would even approach that. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Like, Doug, so take it from the beginning.
Oh, my God. She has no idea what
So it started with a movie called Kissing a Fool. Ever since that.
Long before that, my problem started. But we're going to get into DB in a second. But new names, Kevin Dillon, just for me, because I know some of the audience may
Doug's
not care.
pitching baby names.
I came up with the baby name for your girl, Tess.
I mean, it is a nice name.
It's a
I'm not gonna
great
lie.
name.
It's
I've
a
always
nice
loved the name Tess.
I'm
Could be
gonna-
Tessie, Tessa.
Yeah.
I'm just going to play it safe, and I'm not going to comment on names. Because what if you say you hate the name, and then you go with the name? You're on the record. You know what I mean?
That's
So I'm
the
staying
pilot of
off the record.
Entourage. That
I'm
came
staying
from
off
my
the
friend.
record.
Remember when you guys say you don't like his girlfriend?
Wait.
You say,
The deal is you have to come up with a name, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you say that, Doug?
Yeah, he doesn't follow
For the
these
next
rules.
episode, we got to come up with a name. So
Now he's
what
going
is
to
it?
throw something random
I
out.
know. I said it. I like Carter.
By the way,
Carter.
I said it.
Jimmy Carter.
I actually said Carter, and Connolly said that was
Well,
on
that
the-
was on the list.
on the
but,
list
yeah.
for Kennedy. I have
Carter,
a name,
yeah.
but I've already been shut down, and I love it. And Eric Siegel, who's weirdly enough one of my childhood friends, who was mentioned on the episode yesterday or last week, he threw it out, and I like it. So
Are we going to say what it is?
I'm going to say what it is.
Lake.
I,
Okay, yeah.
I already lost.
Lake
I already
Ellen.
lost. Sarah doesn't like it. Lake Ellen.
I like
Silence.
DB likes it.
I like
DB's
it.
smart. He's playing it safe.
Yeah. I don't hate it.
I think when you got when you have the second
Like
syllable
Tessa
last
better.
name, you go with the single syllable first name.
I agree.
Because you don't want it
Good
to
call.
be ba 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 ba.
By the way, can we introduce DB
yes.
already? He's sitting right over here.
Let's go. Okay, we're moving on.
All right,
Maybe,
here we
maybe
go.
I'll name the child DB. But anyway, DB Sweeney. I've been a longtime fan.
Long Island legend.
Yeah.
Yes, Long
my,
Island
My old
legend.
buddy, too. We go way back.
You guys have done movies together or no?
No.
Wow.
Just 12 packs.
I was going to say.
We never worked together.
We never have. It's a travesty.
You know
And
what's
if by
crazy,
movies you mean a lot of alcohol, yeah, that's what they.
What's crazy is we almost did work together when we were shooting on the lot. What lot was that? Was that
Warner's.
That was Warner
Warner's.
Brothers, right?
I was doing 2.5 Men. You guys rolled by in the Continental.
and the Lincoln.
Oh, that's
the-
right.
And then I was like, yo, DB. And then I brought you in to meet Doug. And Doug's like, all right, we got to figure out how to get you into this episode.
Well, it was the
And-
movie, wasn't it?
Was
I thought
it the movie?
Yeah, it was the movie.
I think it was the movie.
Thank you.
my God.
By the way,
Yeah.
DB, we saved you from being in the bomb.
I was so flattered that you were just trying to figure out how to shoehorn it in on the fly. That was great.
No, we would've loved
Said
it.
a lot about the show and everything.
Yeah.
So DB's, if you pull up this guy's IMDb, it's a bit jarring. It's startling how often this guy manages to work for as an actor. It's impressive. Fire in the Sky. That's a big one that everybody
He's got
knows.
more years than you and me, I believe.
I believe, yeah.
What was it, 83 you started?
I started 83 on Broadway, was my first job. Kane Mutiny
wow.
Court Martial with
wow.
Joe Namath and Michael Moriarty.
Damn, you worked with Joe.
How was Joe to work with?
He was awesome. And so I was in the show. We both were replacements, and I came in about 2 weeks before him. So every night at places, I'd be in the dark with Joe Namath and Michael Moriarty rambling about some conspiracy theory. And Joe Namath would be looking at me like, are you actors all this friggin' nutty? You know, and the answer is yes.
How did you get into acting?
I was a baseball player and I got injured, and it was like I hadn't really done anything else except cook in restaurants. And as a senior in high school, I did a play. It was like that High School Musical thing where they roped in some of the jocks to be in the play. And it was fun, but it was like something you do as a senior. And then when I got hurt, I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? My knee was really messed up, and my dad was a guidance counselor at another high school in Long Island, Ward Melville High School.
It's a rival high school of
Rival high
Patrick Medford.
There it is.
Yes.
And anyway, he said, look, you got to finish college because if you don't, you'll never go back. So I was at Tulane.
Doug Ellin.
Yeah, that's
Small
nice.
world.
And
Class of
so I hurt my knee riding a motorcycle. Freshmen weren't allowed to ride motorcycles. So easy to make an example of me, so I was bounced. And then my older sister was at NYU in French literature or something smart. And I just thought, well, I'll just go to NYU, like as if you could just do that. And they said, well, what do you as an actor, you had to audition. I said, okay, well, all right, what is that? And so I went and learned a monologue. I took it out of The Catcher in the Rye because Holden Caulfield's older brother's name is DB. And he's a writer who goes to Hollywood and becomes a prostitute writer, basically. So I thought that was
That's my story.
Interesting.
That's you, Doug.
TB stands for Doug. That's your middle name, Doug?
So I get through the audition, and it was about a guy talking about his baseball glove, so it wasn't that far away from something I knew, and they let me in, and then they wouldn't. I could never get a part. Like I'd go audition for these, Shakespeare or something, and I was up against all the kids that had been like acting since they were 5. The Ben Afflecks and the Matt Damons that were never on a team. They were just acting since like travel acting, whatever that the equivalent of that in sports. And so I had no game. I couldn't compete. So for a whole year, I didn't get a part. I went to
A whole year? You bastard.
Well, you're in
a
school.
long-
It's like
It's a long stretch to go without work.
not even having a.
I haven't worked in like
spear carrier.
7 years.
I was
but
going to say, Doug's been out of work since the Entourage
But if
movie.
you can't get a part in a college play, the writing might be on the wall.
Oh, you're talking about a guy.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't talking about like landing like a De Niro film.
What was your big break? Not your big break, but what would you? I mean, because man, you've starred in some big movies. So what got you?
It was really Francis Coppola, who I'm actually working with again now in this movie Megalopolis after 35 years. Fred Roos, his casting director who did The Godfather, The Outsiders, he discovered everybody. He met me on this movie called 7 Minutes in Heaven, which was about 2 young girls. Discovered Jennifer Connelly. It's her first movie.
Oh wow! I saw that. I remember that.
Yeah. So anyway, so Fred brings me in to meet the woman who's directing it and says, it was like 3 scenes of like a professional baseball player has an affair with one of these girls and it's forbidden fruit, all that stuff. It's crap. But anyway, Fred was like, you got to put DB in it, and the woman wouldn't do it. So Fred tells the story that he was like, you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong. This guy's going to be a star. So 3 months later, he brings me in to meet Francis Coppola on Gardens of Stone. And I audition, I call back, I audition again, and I got it. And so Fred loves to tell that story, how you don't go against him when he tells you who the person is.
Wow, that's wild.
With the great James Caan.
With the
God
great
bless
James
his soul.
Caan,
Great
yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Big
How
loss.
was working with Francis? Intense.
It was very intense. It was, it was a terrible, tragic situation because his son was killed in a boating accident over the weekend
What?
during our
Right.
filming.
Oh, was that during that?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So,
Yeah.
and most of the movies filmed in Arlington Cemetery. So imagine how somber that whole situation was. And,
Yeah. It was like a barge, and there was a line, right?
yeah. Griffin O'Neill was out of control driving the boat, and
Going really fast.
drove
They
between-
didn't see the line connecting the barge with the boat, and they.
right.
Really,
Griffin
really.
saw it at the last second and ducked, and it hit Gio, and he was killed. And it was
God,
just
what a horrible.
and he was the only one killed?
yeah,
Yeah, I remember when that.
How could I
went
have
down.
not heard that story? That's horrible. man.
terrible. And,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
so I thought the movie would be over and we go home, but Francis didn't want to go home to Napa and have to deal with. He was like, "Let's the show, not the show must go on, but like."
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to.
Well, I mean, that's Francis on Apocalypse Now when Martin Sheen had his heart attack.
Right.
Francis like, I'll put a stick up his ass and prop him up,
Yeah.
and we're finishing in this movie. I think the guy's always put everything on the line for it, and maybe that was a distraction. For
Well,
him
that's what I'm
anyway,
saying.
so.
At some points when you're in something like that, putting yourself to work might be a good band-aid,
good distraction.
if nothing else. Good distraction.
Connolly and I used to talk about this after, who was it? When did they stop working? When, was it Joaquin? Who was it?
Oh yeah, Doug was a story that Doug, we're on the set one day, and there was when Heath Ledger passed, whatever movie Gyllenhaal was on, they stopped production on that day because Jake didn't want to work. And Doug looks at me. By the way, I didn't ask him. Doug offers this up to me. He says, listen, Connolly, I mean, I don't know. I love you, dude. And dare I say that you and I are closer than Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, but honestly, I don't know that I would stop shooting if something happened to you. I was like, well, okay. Seeing as how I didn't ask what you would do, but that is good to know. And you know what, Doug? I don't think I'd stop shooting either. I think I'd play through the rest of the day.
No,
but,
we did not have a love scene ever, but if we did, maybe. But I mean,
it's even tougher if you got to go in and do comedy.
That's
you
true. That's true. No,
you're in a
it's
horrible place.
everybody's different.
so you would stop working if something happened to Connolly.
Well, I actually lost my best friend. I was doing a movie in New Zealand called The Rescue, and I found out my good buddy Gary Lemoyne, God bless his soul, he passed, and
you're far
I wanted
away.
to go home. I wanted to, my best buddy passed, and they were like, "You can't. You're the lead in this movie.
can't,
You cannot leave."
Yeah, I mean, you want to be at the funeral, of course, and
Yeah.
stuff. But anyway,
Well,
DB,
it's also a long way to go to New Zealand, back to New York. But
Weird transition to hockey. You're a hockey fan growing up. How do you? And you're good at hockey. You skate cutting edge. Tell me about that.
Grew up a Rangers fan, which is an anomaly from
baby. Go
Suffolk
Rangers.
County. I know, So I don't know. I just always loved the Rangers. I loved John Davidson and Rod Gilbert and all those guys.
You liked his hair, huh?
Well, he had a pretty good kill sheet apparently. You go through all the roster of 70s and 80s actresses. I think
Carol Alt.
we were hanging out with Chris Chelios
Saturday, yeah.
and I had a great time by the beach house, played a little backgammon. And while we were talking to Chris, he got
Chris is one of the
Ty
great
Domi.
hockey players. of all
Ty
time.
Domi. Do you
I know
remember Ty Domi?
I know Ty a little bit. Yeah,
he got Ty Domi on a FaceTime. It was like,
awesome.
"Hey, what's up, Ty?"
Ty Domi somehow knows Scott Lavin. I have no idea how, but I've hung out with him a couple times.
a very
he was
social
so tough.
So the best thing
man.
about
What an
Saturday
animal.
was Kevin doesn't want to come empty-handed, we're going to drink some beer at the beach or whatever. So he shows up with some foie gras from France.
You gotta say foie gras.
Foie gras.
It's like, listen, I didn't get any beers, but I got foie gras, which you
But
cannot get.
instead of bringing like a baguette or some fancy crackers, he brings Ritz crackers.
Ritz crackers and
it
foie
was
gras.
just- it was
That's
perfect.
He didn't
phenomenal.
even know I had the foie gras inside the box. So I
thought
just
he-
said, "Hey, I didn't come empty-handed." I show a box of Ritz crackers. He's like, "Oh my god,
I gotta tell you,
you are such a shanty
This
Irish
is
guy."
one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard. Dillon shows up at a tough guy hockey players party with foie gras and Ritz crackers. I mean,
Listen,
It was
only
awesome.
Kevin Dillon.
anybody
Hey, dude.
can walk in with a 12-pack of Coors Light. Not everybody can show up with some foie gras.
Exactly.
Now, granted,
cool.
I don't
Like-
show up empty-handed, though. I
Did
never
you just
do. I
get
always
it?
bring
Was it
something.
fresh? I mean,
I had it in my closet, so I was like, "What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" Because I don't stop now. Because I live in Lake Sherwood. There's nothing on the way to Chelios' house, so I had to grab something from the closet, and it was still fresh. It was
What
in
do you
the
mean the
can.
closet? In
It's in his
the-
It was
closet.
in the, it
Not
was in the can. And I
refrigerated.
got it in France when I was in France.
Oh,
so
God.
it's,
that's where he keeps it cool.
It was great. It was truffle foie gras.
It was really good.
Unbelievable, right? I mean, TV.
It was great. We crushed the whole can.
We did, man.
So it did. The foie gras went.
It was good.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
good.
It was like, you know what, Dylan? Thank you, bro. I appreciate the
and
foie
you know
gras.
what? It's illegal in the state, so you can't even find foie gras. I mean, it's a specialty around here in
you
California.
are a fucking special.
Ridiculous. All right, but let's get back. So how are you good enough at hockey in Suffolk County? You're just an all-around athlete, baseball.
I wasn't a hockey player at all. I just they came to me on that cutting. I was one of those few times where they're like, "We want you to do it, and can you skate?" And I was like, "No, I can't." And they said, "Well, we'll give you 3 months. Would you be willing to try to learn?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I was living in Manhattan, and Moira Kelly from Lake Ronkonkoma.
Also
great.
from Long Island.
Yeah.
2 Long Islanders in the
Tremendous.
cutting
I
edge.
had a crush on her. She
Oh,
was so
she's
hot.
amazing. What a good actress, great
yeah.
person. And
Great movie.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, they give us 3 months, and MGM rents out Sky Rink, which was on 9th Avenue and like 48th Street. It's on the 6th floor. It's now Chelsea Piers calls it Sky Rink, but there
Yeah,
was an
yeah.
original Sky Rink up in the air. Like you take an elevator up to the rink. It was
really?
crazy.
Yeah.
And they rented it out. So it would be the coaches, me and Moira, and she didn't know how to skate either. So we're starting from scratch. Excuse me. And so there was a sign, like, and the hockey skates are more comfortable than the figure skates, and I'm breaking them both in. It just sucks. It's like really painful, and you don't want to be bad at something as long as I had to be bad at it. So there's a sign up there that says, like, the early morning first hour and a half is figure skating time, and the next hour and a half is open hockey. The sign said during figure skating time, there's no hockey skates on the ice. So I had my hockey skates on, and Moira goes, "Hey, you can't have those on." And I was like, and I understood the whole movie. I was like, I'm going to wear my hockey skates every single time.
Oh, so you got that to change that.
So it was like, yeah, I was like, but it irked her. It was like, and so we had a scene in the movie where she wants me to button my shirt, and I'm like, if it meant,
that was great.
You know, so that whole scene, I was like, oh, I get the relationship now.
Wait, did your character not have figure skate? You had hockey.
Yeah, he's a hockey player turned figure skater.
I know that,
right?
but did your character? Yeah. So throughout the whole movie.
Well, anytime you saw my feet, it was a lot of times it would be the double. You know, So I was like, when I was skating and little things, and I figured I knew how movies were put together by then. So I practiced really hard on the first step and the last step, like stops, because you're gonna skate in, stop, talk, or you're gonna da 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 da. You go F yourself, skate away.
Right.
So I thought if
How good did you get? Can you do a triple axel?
Honestly, I'm shocked to hear that this is how it went. I thought for sure he had some kind of background in hockey.
Yeah.
The fact that you even skated at all, but that makes sense. You skate in, you got to work on your last step and your first step.
Yeah.
So your jump and then your,
Right.
Wow.
And Moira broke her leg in the first week of filming. So I ended up doing a lot, landing a jump. That's how good she got.
Wow.
And so they ended up leaning on me a little more than they had to.
Broke her leg.
Broke her leg right above the boot. Landing like a single axle jump, which is like, if you're an 11-year-old figure skater, you're doing a single axle. But for a grown woman, after
that's
3
never
months,
skated before.
I mean, it was amazing what she had accomplished. And so her double, Sharon Cars, looked exactly like her, from like 80% of angles.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's scenes like where it's me and Sharon Cars, and it's like, and if you have if you're the dude in the back and the girl in front of you is a pro, you just kind of like lean on her and imitate her steps. And it makes you a lot better.
Yeah.
Right, it's a dance partner.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Somebody, they're leading you. So if you just imitate them, and my leg is longer, so I don't have to be as athletic or skilled to imitate her step.
Wow.
It was really fun.
That's crazy.
But you're a good hockey player now, right?
I would say good. I had a period where, at the 10 years after the movie, when I got out there, I could fly around pretty good, but I had no hands. So I just would run into people. And
you were a goon, basically.
yeah. And Cuba Gooding Jr. is a good buddy of mine.
Good hockey player.
Yeah, good. We started playing
great
hockey at
guy.
the same time. And he's a great athlete. I mean, that guy could dance. He could do everything. And so anyway, we started out around the same time, and we get frustrated because we couldn't really score goals. So we made a deal where we played in these celebrity deals or whatever, that you're allowed to drill me and I'm allowed to drill you as long as we have the puck. Open season, just like real hockey. So one time,
you to have your moment at the tournament.
Yeah, just so that we could, be doing something.
Right.
Wow.
So at Madison Square Garden during the Christopher Reeve hockey game, it's the greatest hit of all time. Cuba's on the bench giving an interview to, I don't know, Sam Rosen or somebody, and he goes, "Oh, DB's out there. I got to go get him." 15,000 people. This interview's on the scoreboard.
He jumps
said,
out of the
DB's out there. I
interview.
got to go get him. He jumps over the bench and he skates. I have the puck in the corner. I'm mishandling, I'm sure. And he comes flying in and pancakes me.
Oh,
it's
my
a friggin'
God.
yard sale. And but it's a great.
Is that too many men on the ice?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get.
Well, no, it
you
was
gotta-
his change. It was his change, legal change. But it was better than Babe Ruth called shot. I mean,
He flattened you on the scoreboard in the
it was
interview.
And I'm
amazing.
sure they panned over to catch it.
Oh,
Right?
it was great. I mean,
Try to track that down. Maybe cut that into a social clip.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
it was. I had so much respect for Cuba after that. I mean, I liked him to begin with, but I thought that's just epic.
He's a gamer.
Was
He's a gamer.
this like Bruckheimer's hockey game?
That was no. Christopher Reeve had a foundation, and every year they do a charity game at Madison Square Garden to raise money, for paralysis research. But they would sell the barn out. I mean, it was crazy. Boomer Esiason would be there, and everybody who's like a Ranger fan that had skates would be out
But you
there.
did Bruckheimer's as well, too, right?
Yeah, we did that for many years. We'd go to Vegas and have this crazy tournament, and
Did that kind of fizzle out, the Bruckheimer tournament?
I think it
lose all
kind
the
of just
steam?
came to its the end of its logical life. We did it for about 15 or 17 years, I think, every year.
Kissing a Fool producers, Tog Mandillo and Andrew Form.
There you go.
There he goes again.
I'm just
Kissing
telling
the
you.
fool.
They were in that game.
There's connective tissue everywhere.
Connective tissue everywhere. All right. So also 8 Men Out, right? Tell me that because I was at the final call for 8 Men Out.
No.
Yeah. I in fact, I thought it was a job that I was going to get.
And that's John Sayles, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I mean, that's one of my favorite
So,
directors.
Eight Men Out.
First of all, was that before Fire in the Sky or
Yeah,
after?
before.
Okay, 8 Men Out. So we're
Right.
in order.
8 Men
Okay,
Out
great.
was John Sayles,
yeah,
right?
and that's a movie everyone should check out.
And it's about the 1929 White
Black
Sox.
Sox. They
called
called
the Black
them,
Sox because
yeah.
they threw the World Series.
1919.
1919, excuse
Yeah.
me, sorry. And they threw the World Series, and it's a great movie. And who else?
I played Shoeless Joe
played
Jackson.
Shoeless Joe.
Cusack played Buck Weaver. We had David Strathairn, Christopher Lloyd. Studs Terkel, which was a big thrill for me, Chicago writer, and John Sayles was in it. We also had Michael Rooker. It was just a great
Michael
cast.
Rooker.
Great
You want to
cast.
know what my line was? Say it ain't so, Joe. I was the same.
Oh, wow. You would.
By the way, I got robbed. I think I choked.
You would have been better.
I think I choked.
Was that your only line?
No, it was like but it was obviously
It was a big moment.
A big moment in the movie where a kid is heartbroken.
You would have been saying that to DB.
I would have been saying that to DB, and I choked on the final
You
call.
would have been a 16-year-old playing a
no,
9-year-old,
no.
right?
What year was that?
88?
88. So I would have been
89?
a 14-year-old kid playing a 9-year-old. Yeah. I definitely. Say it ain't so, Joe. Say it ain't so.
You can still play that part.
What a great movie.
Oh,
that
it was so much fun to be in that movie. I got to tell you Charlie Sheen's story about that movie, right?
Yeah.
So I did a movie called No Man's Land with Charlie Sheen, and we finished that movie. We had a lot of fun together. And during the filming, Charlie went from like Martin Sheen's kid to like the cover of Time magazine, like it was like the whole ascent, like a rocket ship. And anyway, so he goes off to do. And the reason was because the studio Orion had picked up Platoon, and Mike Medavoy, to his credit, said, this movie's going to be huge. Charlie Sheen's going to be a big star. So he slammed him in the next movie that was filming with Orion, which was this movie with me. So it was me and Charlie, and it was great. We became good friends. He talked about baseball a lot. He goes off to do Wall Street in New York, where I was living, and I'm trying to learn how to hit left-handed because I'm a right-handed hitter, and I thought, nobody's ever been a believable baseball player in a movie, and I thought, here's my chance to be the first guy. So I spent 6 months. And John Sayles calls me during that period. He says, hey, we need a couple more guys. Can you get any of your Hollywood friends who are known? So I meet Charlie at McSorley's Ale House when he's doing Wall Street.
Yeah.
And there's a couple people there. And I said, hey, Charlie, we got to do this baseball movie when you get done with this. It's in Indianapolis. There's no money, but we'll be in the World Series together. I'll be the left fielder. You'll be the center fielder. But I didn't tell him that he was Joe Blow and I was Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Shoeless Joe.
So Charlie never read the script. He shows up in Indianapolis. I see him the first night he gets there. He's got his baseball hat. He's got a dart. And he's reading the script. And I walk in.
That's a cigarette, by the way.
Yeah. And he goes, Dave, I'm on page 46. Where's my part? I don't have any lines.
You sound like a dude.
But he never left. He stayed there and made the movie. It was great. And
It's
they
the
wrote
last
it.
time he didn't read a script.
I mean, did he find some lines in there?
They put a scene in for him.
I feel like I remember.
Yeah, he's had presence. He's one of the 8 guys, but
He's one of the 8 men out, but he had a bigger role than me and a smaller role than DB.
But Charlie's he lives up to his word though. He does.
He did. I thought I would have probably left if I was him, but he stayed there, and we had a great time.
Now, do you know when you're making that movie that it's going to be what it was? I mean, what had John Sayles done before?
He was considered like one of the great independent
artists, right?
Writer directors. Yeah.
Yeah, he did Matewan, which was really good.
Yeah, that was Oscar nominated, and he did City of what the fuck? I love
Return of the
John
Secaucus 7 was kind of the one that put him on the map. But he was a great writer, and everybody wanted to be in that movie.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. So it was a job to get in a movie to be in.
And the story of the Black Sox is so well known too. You know that's going to be very interesting.
And this is before Field of Dreams, I think, right?
It did, which is it's the stupidest thing I've ever done. They asked me to play Shoeless Joe Jackson at Field of Dreams. They actually wore our uniforms from the movie.
So Ray Liotta ended up playing that, but
God bless Ray, what a great actor.
Yeah,
and, but I was so stupid. I'd been a college baseball player. I'd been in 3 movies. Now my 4th movie is going to be my 2nd baseball movie, and my 2nd one playing Shoeless Joe Jackson. I'm like, they're only going to think I can play Southern baseball players. Like that's how I didn't know I was going to get to do 90 movies. Yeah, I just said I'd.
It's interesting because I listened to Costner was talking about because he just did Bull Durham and Field of Dreams pretty much at the same time.
Yeah.
And he did it for whatever reason. He decided to do 2 baseball movies at the same time.
But you can't argue when you do have to think about it for a second.
Yeah, I mean, we're actors.
Yeah,
we're so
Durham
stupid.
and Field of Dreams, you're like,
you overthink everything.
But you're not because you might have been right also.
Yeah.
There's that place like what it could have been that. Oh my God, okay, he's only going to play left hitting baseball players.
Yeah. And DB, tell us for people that are listening, what's in a nutshell, the 1919 story of the Chicago White Sox, aka the Chicago Black
So there's
Sox.
the story. Like the problem is, anytime I do a lot of research as an actor, you always find you get in trouble if what you find goes against what the story is. And so the story of Shoeless Joe Jackson is much more layered and complex than it is in this movie. In the movie, Charles Comiskey, the owner of the White Sox, is a cheapskate. All the players are underpaid. He cheats them out of their bonuses. And they're like the 1927 Yankees. They're one of the greatest teams of all time. So they make a deal with the gamblers. You know what? We're going to make some money by losing World Series games on purpose. And then the gamblers go back on their word. They don't get paid. And then the players try to win. And to enforce the Throne World Series, the gamblers end up threatening the wife of one of the pitchers. So that's basically the story of the movie. Wow. But the real story is that at that period of baseball, Ty Cobb was throwing games. Everybody was throwing games. Like if you had a 4-game series, the first 2 games would be arranged, and then the last 2 games would be competitive.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's just.
But also, you got to remember, these guys are winning the World Series, Hall of Famers who are going and having jobs in the wintertime because they don't get paid any money, And now we go, why would anyone throw a game when they make $100 million to play baseball? But when you're making, less money than some of the people in the stands, it was a very different time.
Well, it's a problem. Yeah, it's a problem.
Well, it's kind of like college athletics now. You look at all those point shaving scandals, and you go, you know what? They should have been because they couldn't even afford to eat, And
well, remember the Super Bowl? Manny Ramirez, the center for Peyton Manning. He obviously got paid. Remember, he snapped the ball out of the end zone for the first play of the game.
Against Seattle,
yeah.
right?
And so the
safety on the first play of the game?
Safety as the first score was like 125-1.
Is that that's like a conspiracy theory, or they
to me, it's pretty much.
By the way,
I'm laying it on the table right now.
I've heard far bigger conspiracies.
Yeah.
That sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah,
why
it's
not?
easy, right? But nobody ever talked about it.
No one ever accused him, though, right?
No, nobody ever accused him. But I thought
we had a big point shaving scandal at Tulane.
Yeah. Hot Rod Williams, right?
Hot Rod Williams and my brother's fraternity, which was
getting cat hair off you.
Yeah.
Getting cat hair.
But that whole thing with that safety was like, remember that was the year when Peyton Manning was so dominant, and he would always be like, he would use the entire clock, and he'd be like, Omaha, and he'd go up and he'd walk up and down the line.
Yeah.
The guy snapped the ball on the first play of the game on the 2-yard line with 18 seconds on the clock.
So you lost a lot of money.
Peyton Manning was nowhere near.
No, I didn't take it that year. I usually take defensive touchdown.
Yeah, this was the Seahawks win with Russell, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I know what you're saying, right? You start digging around, researching a role for the movie of 8 Men Out, and then you go like,
he's not as honest as everyone thought.
No,
maybe.
I mean, I think that it's just a little more. It wasn't just so black and white.
Because in the movie, Shoeless Joe won't do it. He's the honest guy.
Yeah, well, that's Cusack more, and then Shoeless Joe is kind of in the gray area. But the reality is,
well, he had a big series, right?
He had a big series. Everybody says, he had 375. He had 12 hits, which was the record until 1960. Bobby Richardson. Although 1919 is the only World Series that was 5 out of 9 because they didn't have it the year before, so there was so much demand. They made it 5 out of 9. Jesus. Anyway, so when you go through, when you really dig into the box scores of where Shoeless Joe got his, he had 1 home run and he had just a couple of RBIs. All in blowouts. Like every time he came up in a key situation, he didn't deliver.
Right.
And so 375 sounds impressive, but look at Bernie Williams. He had World Series where he hit 550, and I mean,
he's a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. So he was on the take.
He was on the take.
Wow.
And he should have been. I don't know.
And they're like, "Shut up! Stop talking about this. You're going to be the honest guy." Yeah.
On a side note,
the
now,
producer said
you see Yasiel Puig is going to jail for 5 years.
Did you see that? Yasiel Puig
For what?
800. He made 899 bets confirmed. 899.
Oh my
bets.
God!
He had an illegal
While he was
gambling
playing.
thing. And by the way,
he's running an illegal gambling.
and he was probably.
I
He was making millions and millions of dollars.
It's
and
different than Bobby Nystrom and Clark Gillies making $60,000 a year for the New York Islanders.
Wait, he wasn't doing it while he was playing, though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
so that's like
Those stories are so
Pete Rose
crazy.
kind of
Remember the Ram? Well,
No, but it's not Pete Rose because it's Pete Rose could change the outcome of the game. I mean,
no, he was actually. I think he was taking bets. Yasiel Puig.
Yeah,
He had like a gambling
he's a
ring,
bookie.
as opposed to just an addicted gambler or anything
Right.
like that.
right.
Yeah.
What do you think about Pete Rose?
Well, I mean, the Hall of Fame is so complicated. The whole discussion. Shoeless Joe Jackson is one of the 5 greatest hitters of all time, hands down, in any calculation. And so if it's about what you do on the field, he's got to be in there. Pete Rose, in my opinion, is not one of the greatest players of all time. I think he's one of the most durable players of all time, and he's an accumulator. There's a couple of pitchers in the Hall of Fame with 300 wins who were never the best pitcher in the league. Don Sutton, and there's a couple of guys in there where you get to certain landmarks, and of course, 4,400 hits is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, nobody's even close.
Nobody will ever get near it.
So I mean, I think that's got to put him as one of the all-time greats, though. No.
Yeah.
What was his lifetime batting?
275, 276.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great gamer. He was a great competitor, but
played a long
he
time.
was tough.
Played a long
man.
time.
He was so
The thing I always said
loved him.
about Pete Rose, and here's my look. I think Bonds, Clemens, I think they should all be in the Hall of Fame. The thing about Pete Rose, well, he never bet on his own team to lose. The bottom line is when you bet that heavy, and then one day you don't bet, the bookies go,
They know.
he's not betting because he doesn't think his team is going to win. So let's go against him. He moved the line by not betting.
Right.
So that's where it's where it's
Yeah,
dicey.
and you also look. You want to keep the integrity of the sport because if you got that much money on a game, it may affect you. Whether you
I
think you're going to try
agree.
harder.
He should get in trouble for that, but I don't know if they should still keep him out forever.
There's worse people in these Hall of Fames.
For sure.
Yeah.
Pete Rose. And,
I mean, they should have a rogues gallery. That's what I've always said, is that put the guys that are tainted, Clemens and Barry Bonds and Shoeless
A-Rod.
Joe and A-Rod.
Yeah,
and
guys
Palmeiro.
who-
And it's just, it'd be the most popular wing
I
of
was
the
going
Hall
to
of
say,
Fame.
it would be
idea.
the first wing that I would go with.
The Rogues Gallery or something.
The dark gallery.
asterisk.
It's like going to the dark net.
But by the way, they're not
Doug
talking
spends
about-
a little time in that dark net.
They're not even talking about the personalities. I
loves the
mean, there's
dark web.
fucking racists
web.
and domestic abusers. I mean, I don't know. I think it should be like you just said. Should be on the field, and just on a side, we'll end on baseball. Don Mattingly should be in the goddamn Hall of
Is
Fame.
Don Mattingly not in the Hall
man,
of Fame?
he should be.
No, I don't even
Hey, but just
understand
real
it.
quick, though, you got really good. I remember you were telling me you got good as a lefty, right?
Yeah, I discovered that I actually should have been a lefty my whole life because you know, guys know how to do dominant eye. Like, so I'm right eye dominant. You put your you make a circle and you have both eyes open. And you put an object like the coffee cup in the thing, and then you close both eyes, and the eye that the object remains in the center. That's your dominant eye.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I never knew that.
I have to try this.
And so if you're a
Pickleball.
right-hand hitter,
I'm
you
right
should
eye
be left
dominant.
eye
Yeah.
dominant, and if you're right eye, so it switches
Right.
because you want your front eye to be your dominant eye. So
maybe I should be a lefty too. Then.
yeah.
Maybe that's why you never made the baseball team and had to join band.
Oh please, I was making movies, dude.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
So
All
you were
right,
doing
so,
big wheel commercials.
and then, well, this is the obvious one too. So, Fire in the Sky. When does Fire in the Sky come along? This is
Like 94. Yeah.
was that
By the way,
really-
I auditioned for that one.
Did you?
I had a couple callbacks. As
Dillon
well.
was close on
many callbacks.
You were close on the
Many
wild
movies.
card. Who was the guy that was like sort of the wild card?
Craig Sheffer.
Craig Sheffer. Yes,
yeah.
that
I've done
was,
3
yeah.
movies with Craig. He's a great guy.
What happened
Yeah.
to Craig Sheffer?
I don't know. He
beat out Dillon and Fire in the Sky. That's for sure.
He did.
Wherever he is, I'm sure it's interesting. He's a good
He's an
guy.
interesting guy.
Yeah, I like Craig.
Yeah.
Fire in the Sky came about in such a stupid way. Again, like I'm an idiot actor. I really wanted to be Spider-Man. And at that time, James Cameron had the rights to Spider-Man. And I knew Industrial Light and Magic did all his effects and everything. So Fire in the Sky came along. They said, hey, this is going to be a really hard shoot. You're going to have to be on wires for like 4 weeks. And I was like, oh, man, maybe James Cameron will hear how good I am on
This
the
guy
wires.
is limber. Let's get him in a
As
Spider-Man
if that's,
suit.
as if that's the
That's
way
amazing.
they. But that was literally why I got
By
interested.
the way, it's
Why-
not a terrible thought process.
But why did you want to be Spider-Man back then when it didn't? The comic book movies were not like the exciting thing then.
But it
were
was
they?
going to be the
It
first
was
one.
gonna be that. It was everybody was always talking about
Is this-
someday
this
it'll
is
be.
Toby? Like,
No, but I remember this
is
is
like
like the
10
first
years before they
this
ever
is
did
the
it.
first time that like you'd heard about it, and it was. I mean, think about it. James Cameron and Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's like
It was
totally changes
Toby
the
was
game.
the first Spider-Man.
Toby was
right?
the first Spider-Man, but there was Cameron was kicking it around in the early '90s, right?
So this is how, like, if you're from Long Island, you think the best way to get a movie is to impress the technicians with the wires,
Right.
instead of like having dinner with Jerry Bruckheimer or something.
Right,
You know,
right.
like, I mean, so anyway, that's my story. Stick
So
to
what
it.
did you do? You
Fire in the
got
Sky.
him, you hooked up the wires and started.
No, I just knew that was going to be a bit like that. There's an 11-minute sequence in that movie that took us 4 weeks to shoot, and I was on the wires 12 hours a day. Like, I did every single shot in that sequence, and it was really fun, but it was hard work. I mean, because they did something so smart, which makes it where you can't really tell that it's fake. They built the set upside down, and then they turned the camera upside down, and then they hung me from the ceiling. So you couldn't really tell. Usually when somebody's flying around, it's like, yeah, he's got wires on his hips. You couldn't really detect it as well.
So everybody knows we're talking about Fire in the Sky, which is the Travis Scott.
Travis Walton.
Travis Scott, Jesus. Travis Walton, it's one of the most credible UFO abduction cases.
You were
in-
being
in
beamed
history.
up to the flying saucer or whatever at that stage, right?
Yeah,
That was-
he inside the flying saucer. Like,
Yeah.
they have like this medical research facility on the mothership or something, and they do experiments on humans. That's the
Oh yeah,
the
probe.
premise of the
Did
movie.
you get probed? A little anal probe.
Dylan.
Dylan, by the way, there's no episode that we've done out of 200 that Dylan doesn't hit.
Why
anal
are
probe
aliens
somewhere.
such pervs?
People are gonna be- people are gonna be waiting for it.
Everyone who gets abducted always gets like an alien
Dylan
probe.
refused to read when he realized that he wasn't really going to get anally probed.
I'm
He said
out.
he likes to do he likes to do it practical.
I need to be
TV,
probed.
I got a couple of questions about this because we did an episode of Entourage where with Vince, where he was doing Aquaman, had to get on the wires. So is it, when you say it was fun, is it fun being on wires for 4 weeks and trying to act?
No,
No,
it's really
there's
hard
no
work.
way.
It's really hard work, but if you know it's going to be cool, you get through it. But it was definitely, I was sore. My hips for like a year were never the same because you had to arch your back and all the weight of your body is right through your hips.
And
So-
also, aside from that, I mean, is acting. Do you feel like you're really able to perform at your best, or are you kind of like, does this look good, or I got to trust everybody?
Well, this is just one sequence where he's getting beamed up.
Yeah,
right?
it's 11 minutes of the movie.
No, it's
Right.
11 minutes of weightlessness. So,
Right.
so the whole thing took 4 weeks. 5 days a week, and
4 weeks to shoot that
Yeah,
sequence.
yeah.
I'm gonna watch
Those are
it
the
tonight.
days, bro. Those days
Who
are
directed
over.
the movie?
yeah, Rob Lieberman did a great job, and but it was they didn't have enough money for the rest of the movie because like
They spent it all on the
they
wire.
spent it all on this 11 minutes, and they could have used another few million for that. But Peter Berg was in the movie, and Robert Patrick, and James Garner. So
I mean, it's a great movie,
It was
and
a real lot of fun.
I also think it holds up, and it's an incredible story. But just because you guys are smarter than me, so the shot
got
is
that right.
the shot. They turn the setups. Explain that to me
They
again.
build the set upside down.
So like the spaceship
the spaceship is built upside down.
upside down. So the spaceship's on the floor.
Yeah. Well, the roof of the spaceship is on the floor.
Okay.
And then the bottom on the top. And then they turn the camera upside down. But the wires that are hanging me up are still from the ceiling. And then they hang me up facing my face to the ceiling.
Okay.
So it just disorients your sense
I'm
of where
disoriented right now. I'm
Yeah.
still trying to figure it out, but that's smarter than me.
Dylan's
Right.
still thinking about anal probes. So
Because there's the famous story from Close Encounters. Close Encounters. Spielberg took the picture off of Mulholland of the Valley and flipped the photo upside down, and that became the bottom of the ship for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So
Yeah.
nowadays they would just go, they
yeah,
would just do
totally.
it
That is
a
true,
totally
right?
different way. Yeah, that is
Connolly
true.
comes out with a lot of things. He
like it.
These guys don't believe me.
But some of them are wrong. You said Al Pacino was
No,
in
Dustin
Star
Hoffman
Wars.
was in Star Wars.
No, he
He was in
wasn't.
Star Wars.
But Kevin, I got to tell you, if you do get abducted, the aliens have this mint lube that's unbelievable.
Oh, nice.
You're gonna like it.
He
I mean,
loves
they're,
it.
they're traveling so many millions of light
Millions.
years just to anally probe me. It's a long way to go. You must really want it bad.
DB, did you meet Travis Walton? Of course you did, right?
I did, yeah. But after my experience on 8 Men Out, and also on Memphis Belle, I played a kind of a real life person. The crew of the Memphis Belle was a real thing, but they changed all the names, and I played the navigator. And he's kind of a coward in the movie, but in real life, he was the most heroic guy in the crew. So his family lost their mind when they read the script. They were like, nobody's going to get the distinction of, the fictional versus the real. It's like this guy was like, I don't think he won a Bronze Star, but he was a decorated guy, and the family was like, the legacy will be ruined. And I was like, and I got drawn into the middle of that. I was like, I'm just reading the script here, don't blame me. So 3 years later, I did Fire in the Sky. I was like, I really would rather not meet Travis Walton in case I don't believe him.
Yeah. Well,
You
do
know, a
you
lot of
believe
people
him?
say that.
Do
Oh,
you believe him?
The most
Connolly clearly does. But.
The most incredible thing about that story is there was in the movie there's 5 guys in the pickup truck who witness it. In the real account, there's 6 guys in the pickup truck, and they're not like fraternity brothers. They're just coworkers, and all 6 guys say it happened. So that's and they all 6 passed lie detector tests, which doesn't really prove anything.
Well-
but it helps. I mean, it's the
Right.
fact that none of them have recanted. It's 50 years ago.
Connolly, you're a believer.
The point is exactly what DB is saying, is that these guys had nothing to gain, and they were under heavy scrutiny for this ridiculous story that their friend got kidnapped by a spaceship. The guy's gone for 5 days, and then he pops up alive, and then so these guys were either all in on it together and are the best actors ever, or something weird happened that day. Now I don't know. It's funny. Did you listen to Joe Rogan? You
I
ever
do,
listen to
yeah,
Rogan?
yeah.
Did you hear Travis Walton on Joe Rogan?
I did. I heard that episode.
Travis Walton said something interesting, and it's true. He said, when you tell a story long enough, 35, 40 years, however long he's been telling the story, eventually you're telling the story. Does that make any sense? He's like, at this point, it's so sketched into my memory that I'm almost telling the story out of memory of telling the story than out of my memory of what actually happened, if that makes any sense. So I thought that was interesting.
but still, I don't believe him.
Well, what do you think? You just think...
I don't really have the hypothesis of what he actually
did you ever look into it?
There's nothing for me to look into.
Maybe something weird happened. Maybe it was a government thing.
The cops
Maybe
said
they took
LSD. That's what the
by
cops
way,
said.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And I said, that's what I said.
1975, a lot of LSD
I've
floating
got
around.
a lot of friends that I've seen on acid think they've been abducted.
These
by
guys were
different
like
things.
big tree loggers.
I'm just saying, no
Do you
evidence.
think they were doing acid
no
with
cameras.
chainsaws?
They got
cameras. It was
They got probed, that's for sure.
I know, but everybody's got a camera now, and we never get any real.
Well, there's a lot of evidence now. Speaking of Rogan, did you hear David Fravor, the Navy pilot? They were talking about that. There's all kinds of documented information now of unidentified aerial phenomenon, I think they call it now.
Yeah.
And so it's getting harder and harder to say it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I think Doug's point, and hate to say, he's kind of right. It's like every time you see these videos, it's like a black and white radar video.
Yeah.
Like, where's the iPhone 14
Right.
fucking, video shot? There's got to be some high-end video of this
Just
stuff.
if someone travels that far to our, I'm not about
probe
the
you.
probing, but would they want to why would they come here and not introduce themselves or just?
I mean,
just as
we
rude.
come from another planet.
Listen,
But why is it always
I mean,
a
it's
farmer?
like,
why don't they
why are
grab like
hiding?
Emily Ratajkowski or something? I mean,
Because
Why
Pete
not say the
Davidson's
name
already
of
got her. I mean, look, you could go so deep into what another form of life could be, could not be.
Dillon.
and our comprehension can't even comprehend it. But still, my point is, if you said to me, "I will give you $1 million if you can prove that Kevin Dillon likes to be anally probed," I would get it on camera within a month.
Dillon,
I'll take
I was gonna
half that
say,
money. And
let's split it.
let's
I'll
do the
probe you.
probing right here
By
in
the
the
way,
studio.
I'll probe you live on the Victory Podcast right now for that kind of money.
Ew.
Dillon,
I'll probe you
Dillon,
live.
smell a pay-per-view event.
What a weird thing Dillon to say. Like, why wouldn't they introduce themselves? Why would you
No,
drive
but it's
across
true.
the
I mean,
galaxy?
You would go for either they'd want to take our world or
Right.
they'd want something from us, water,
You're
oxygen,
assuming,
whatever.
You're assuming, though, that they are some form of life that has any relation to us. Again, I can't even
Or
come
they
up
would
with
wanna
it's
study
like-
us, or
but it's
maybe
like
that's it. They
religion
wanna-
to try to come up with how did all of this happen?
well,
it's-
why would they be there? They'd have to
Well,
be there.
look,
Maybe they're home. They're looking for a new
Look,
home.
we know hundreds of movies.
They're
that
not
have-
looking for a home, bro.
I've
It's us.
contemplated
That's
it,
us.
but-
That's our technology. That you're
Did you guys ever get the sea monkeys from the comic book when you were kids? The little shrimp? It was in
monkeys?
the sea monkeys.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so maybe
Brian-
we're like,
Brian Shrimp.
Yeah,
You
maybe
grow
we're,
'em, you mean?
but maybe we're the sea monkeys to the aliens. Like they got a little aquarium.
It's
here.
like, what does he say in Animal House?
We might be like little ants. in
What
the
if we're
aquarium.
just,
They're
just
looking at it like
they're
a hobby?
different.
In
They're
Animal
different.
House, Tom Holtz, what if we're just like a little universe inside the thumbnail of some great big creature in some other universe?
I believe
like
that
Horton's Heard of Who or something.
I believe that it's our technology.
What is?
The phenomenon that
Yes,
you
of
see.
course it is,
I
of
think it's
Now,
our.
by that being said, I do believe there's life somewhere. I don't know what the hell it is.
I agree.
I
100%
definitely do.
there's life in the universe.
Yeah, but I just don't think
One
they
of these
fly
days
it.
they're
And
going to
I
probe
believe
you.
there's intelligent life as well. I just don't think they're going to come all over here for probing. I don't know. I mean,
All right, let's
Go
get back
obsess on
to
this.
let's
Let's
get
get
back
back to
to
Deebee's
let's get
career.
back to
All right,
acting.
here we go.
So, and now you're working again with Coppola. And this is a great story about Coppola. So after kicking around, he's like, you know what? I'm going to go back to what I did. I'm going to make my movie with my own money. Like raised it, and he's doing it all on his own. Correct?
Yeah, as far nobody knows for sure, but the rumor is he's spending like $100 million or more of his own money to make this film Megalopolis. And he's had the script for 30 years, and it's like it's not like Fast and Furious or anything like that. It's kind of an art movie. It's like a meditation on cities and the nature of society and civilization. I mean, it's Adam Driver's in it, and John Voight and Dustin Hoffman and Forrest Whitaker. I mean, it's an unbelievable cast, and it's so ambitious. And like he showed me the sketches, and it looks like The Conformist, the famous Storaro movie, meets Avatar. Like it's amazing vision of like the near future, and coupled with like the coolest parts of the past. Like like he has elements of great design from like the last 30 years, but he also has these things that he's imagined in the near future. So he calls the setting of the movie Modern Times. So there can be a payphone booth on the street and also a cell phone the size of a diamond ring in the same universe. And he's just got his own thing. It's amazing.
That's wild. So, and who are you playing in this, and who else is in it?
I play the police commissioner of New York. We have Natalie Emmanuel from Game of Thrones and Fast and the Furious, and Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf.
Aubrey Plaza is amazing on White Lotus. Have you been watching White Lotus?
I got to catch up on that one. I'm going to see it. I hear it's great.
Yeah.
But she's tremendous. We had a week of rehearsal together, and she's so talented. And it's just a great, great bunch. And I think John Voight is one of the great actors. I mean,
He's unreal.
legend.
Ray Donovan, to me, is like a clinic. So, and those two guys, Dustin Hoffman and John Voight, haven't been together sinse Midnight Cowboy.
Is that true?
So,
Do they have
yeah.
scenes together?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
it's
cool.
So it's pretty great.
I'm walking over here.
I'm walking here.
Jesus Christ, I hate when you do your movie impression. And how far into the process is it? Are you rehearsing? Are you
Week
shooting?
2. We shot a week. We shot last week, and then I'm not on this week. So that's why I got to be out here.
And what happened yesterday? Was that from shooting? You had
He's
Yeah,
doing another show. This guy's got more jobs in 1 week, Doug, than you and I have had in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I got brought in Call Me Cat. I worked with this great. This is actually a great story. I'll tell you this real quick. Jim Patterson brought me in on 2.5 Men, and so our sons played hockey together like 13, 14 years ago, and they were on the Junior Kings in El Segundo. So hockey parents are crazy to begin with. The best thing you can do as a hockey parent is to get away from the other parents and go find a private spot to watch. Right. So I'd always go by the Zamboni door and just watch. And this other dude was there, Jim Patterson. He had a Michigan shirt. And, El Segundo's not really Hollywood. It's like there's Toyota there, there's Northrop Grumman. There's a lot of possibility for normal people around there. So anyway, I figured he's like one of these guys. So I start talking to him, shooting the shit, and he knew I was an actor, but it wasn't like a thing. And so one day he goes, "Wow, you're really funny. Have you ever thought of doing a sitcom?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I hate this. Now he's going to pitch me some shit or whatever, And he goes, because I'm one of the writers on 2.5 Men, and maybe you'd come to an episode." And now I thought, okay, this is one of those things that gets said to you 15 times a day in LA that means nothing.
Right.
And so 3 months later, I moved my family to Chicago for my son's hockey and for our life and for other reasons. I get a call from Jim, and he goes, "Hey, DB, it's Jim Patterson. I just got promoted. I'm the head writer on 2.5 Men. You want to come in and do an episode?"
Now I can make that happen.
And I was like, okay. So I flew in. We did one episode, and John Cryer and I had done a play together back in the day in New York, and we kind of clicked. The director was Jamie Widows, who was in that play, The Cane Mutiny, that I did. So I had some, some...
And Charlie, obviously.
No,
right?
Charlie was gone by now.
Okay.
So this is the Ashton Kutcher days.
All right, we'll edit that out. Sorry.
Yeah. But it was, so John Cryer and I had an immediate thing, and so it turned into like 11 episodes. So then last year, there's this show I did called Be Positive, and Jim Patterson again called me up and said, "Hey, you want to come in and try this out?" And, it's kind of like a paid audition to do an episode, and that turned into 11 episodes, and then the show got canceled. So tragically on Call Me Kat, they lost a very beloved actor. Leslie died a few weeks ago, and so it was, they had, they're trying to figure out where the show goes. Trying me and a couple other pieces to see what makes the most sense. So and it was great. I just, but anyway, so I go to the makeup room, and this goes back to my theory of like makeup trailer is where all movies go to die, and it's nothing.
Doug's gonna love this.
Nothing good happens there. So when I directed my movie Two Tickets to Paradise, the first thing I did was in the budget was I crossed out the makeup trailer. And I said, we're going to have because that's where everybody goes to say how much the director sucks. Yep. so I thought, you got to say it to my face now. We're going to so I had the makeup artist go to the actor's two-banger and do their makeup there because I just wanted to quell every conspiracy in the cradle. So anyway, so I go to the makeup trailer yesterday, lovely people. And, they always go by what number you are on the call sheet. And so I'm a guest star, some number, whatever, 12 or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's just, but there's like a pecking order.
Right.
And I've always felt like in the makeup trailer, take care of the guy who's the most banged up with the best person, right? So, like the girl, they bring in the girl, the main character. She's like a shiny dime. She doesn't need any makeup. Give her a little powder and
she's good to go.
Work on the older lady. Work on the, but it's always like, they and there's a lot of qualified, talented people. Anyway, I had a bad reaction with the makeup, and I was sort of like, oh, here we go. I could have done with no makeup at all, and who cares? That's not where they're hiring me.
Right.
So, but my face, I turned into a lobster. So now they got to cover it because you can see the residual today. I'm still a little red. So now they take out the friggin' spackle and they're covering me.
So DB came in yesterday. We were going to record yesterday, and he had just had this reaction to it. So this morning I said to Dillon, like, "Yo, whatever happened?" So yesterday you came in, you were putting aloe on. Did they end up putting?
Well, then I went
cortisone?
to the Warner Brothers Infirmary, which of course is where all the world's greatest skin experts are, and they gave me some like cortisone cream or something, and it actually worked a little bit. I was putting ice on it, and it was just funny. It was like I got hurt once on a movie 30 years ago, and the producer was like came to the emergency room, and he's acting like he was concerned, but then he finally said, "Are you going to be able to film tomorrow?" And it was like he like let down that he really didn't give a fuck about me, but it was like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
we do that here.
Oh, okay. But anyway, so yesterday, the producer, like Jim is my buddy, and the other producers were so sweet and everything, but you could tell they were sort of like, is he going to force us to come back and film tomorrow? And I was like, there's no way. We're shooting this, even if I have a bag over my head. I mean, so
that's why I said, DB, you got to get out in front of this one, bro. This didn't happen at the nightclub. This happened on their set. Just call him and tell him you had a reaction to it. So it worked out. You shot last night?
Yeah, we shot. But it was funny. I looked at my face in the mirror and I was like, there's no way I don't look like a guy with 4 inches of makeup on. I mean, it was just, it was like, I felt like I'd taken like plaster of Paris and going, but they said it was all right. And
Did they use like green as a base? Because if you want to get rid of red, you start with green as a
Dylan
base.
knows his makeup. I love
Well, he's a painter. He's a
They
painter.
did do something like that.
And then you after the green, then you put the makeup on top.
but then they
that,
also
and
told
that
me they're
covers
going to
up the
go
red.
in post production and digitally do something, which sounds to me like we've always said we'll fix it in post. It's
Right,
never
I was
true.
gonna say, famous
Yeah.
last words.
Yeah, they
It's just
never
to make
do
you
that,
feel
yeah.
better.
Yeah.
But is that say that again, Kev? So if it's red, you put green on it.
Yes,
and that'll
red will
neutralize.
The green will neutralize the red. So
You know this
start
from
with
painting,
a little.
correct?
I've had kind of like I would go
Spoken like
golfing.
a guy who went golfing on Sunday.
Yeah, I'd
before
go golfing. I'd come back. I'd be all red, and they to take the red down, they would use green.
By the way, there's no way the
I love that,
aliens
Dillon.
would not want to talk to you. There's just no way.
I'm dying. I want to probe.
They don't even
you.
talk to me. They
I
go
wanna-
straight for the probe.
I want to probe
That's
you
my-
after that
Not
little
even a
stat.
conversation.
That's great.
If I'm an
What do you
alien, I'm
wanna do,
grabbing
Kev?
Dillon too.
That's- I'm saying-
You guys are going for the probe right away.
I think that's a really
Dylan
really
has-
interesting thing. Of course,
Dylan
Dylan
always has-
getting
Well, Dylan
doubly
knows
probed by it.
Dylan knows the tricks of the trade. Yeah, I got toasted. I'm burnt on the golf course.
Yeah.
and they're gonna put a little green makeup on me, and
I
I'll be
was
fine.
so bad for years. I just burned my face. I mean, DB's a golfer too, and Kev, you're just now golfing, but I mean, you never use sunblock. Only now, over the last couple of years, have I started doing it. But you're out in the sun all day long.
Not for me. I tee off at
7 hours.
So I'm
7
done.
hours in the sun. There's no shade.
I feel like this should be written down right. This is Johnny Drama coaching a makeup artist.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's amazing. It's like
But
I
Dylan,
love that
does
you know
not
that.
worry about sunblock at all. No, they'll put some green on my face.
yeah, a little green.
Dylan knows his. It's amazing when Dylan is in there instructing the makeup artist. I mean, I've
But
seen
it also is amazing to think
good
about
to know. It's
good to
how a film can be affected. And I was saying before we got on the air, because you tell me about the reaction, but David Schwimmer was shooting this Ivan Reitman movie, 6 Days, 7 Nights. And his girlfriend at the time came to my house, played with my cat for a second, and we went over to the set, which was in Beverly Hills. Michael
boy.
Chapman, Oscar-winning.
It's Harrison Ford, right?
Yeah, Harrison Ford.
Ellen's
Anne Heche.
Ellen's old.
Rest in
the
peace.
late Anne Heche. Yeah, and, Michael Chapman, cinematographer of, I believe, Raging Bull, Oscar winner. And she goes over, she just kisses David hello, and then I'm standing.
is awesome.
I'm standing behind the camera. There's 300 people there. It's probably at the time a 75 million.
I mean, it was a massive movie.
And all of a sudden, I hear Michael Chapman going, "What's wrong with his face?" And David's face within 2 minutes of saying hello to her who kissed a cat
Your
an
cat?
hour earlier.
Wow.
My cat. My cat.
wow.
All of a sudden, his entire face blew up, and they had to shut the whole thing down. And when you're in, which we just did, an independent pilot, if things get shut down like that, you're fucked.
Can't recover.
I mean, obviously, Harrison Ford, they can recover, but
Yeah, listen, I don't want to get into the we just have beat this story to death, but when we did the Entourage movie, we got this crazy location in Palo Alto. Where was that?
Palo Alto.
Palo Alto, and it was 4 days at this one location, and 60 people flew in for cameos, and I broke my leg at 10:30 in the morning on day one, and as I'm laying there, I said, we are not shutting. I know I didn't have to talk to Doug or the producers. I'm like, I just have to figure out a way to get through this.
Yeah,
we're
the
not
party scene
We're not
is-
coming back to shoot this. It's too late. The ship has sailed.
I've
So-
never seen so many trailers. I mean, there was 20 trailers, and they were all double bangers. I mean, that's how
mean,
many guests we had.
it's funny, we
a
had
big party.
Brady.
I was so
Gronk,
jealous when you guys were
Mike
shooting that show. I
Tyson.
wanted to be on that show so bad.
we would have had you on. Dylan should have called.
What? I did. I tried to. I set you guys
You
up.
muttering, stuttering. prick.
Yeah.
But I mean, that day it's funny because last week we had a charity guy here who won a charity who wanted to come see the podcast, and he was talking about that scene, and he was like, "How did you put all of that together?" And it's funny because we have such a great crew. I'm like, I didn't really do much. Gronkowski just showed up, said, "Can I be in it?" And but it was a massive day.
I knew. I was like, "Fuck, man, this is I can't even complain my way out of this one." I'm like, I didn't need to talk to anybody because I
So
knew
in
I
that
had
scene, they just had you sit somewhere.
No,
He still had to walk.
No, I was
Oh, you had to
walking
walk.
No,
around.
Gronkowski
I
Gronkowski wanted to shoot him up with some Tardo. I swear to God, he
JB,
wanted to.
I knew he couldn't walk hardly, so I put my arm around him, and as we're doing a walk and talk, I'm basically carrying him along.
By the way, I had to make it about, I don't know, probably from, I'd say 3 or 4 feet.
20. Oh no, it was longer than that.
But there was this one point where I was just exposed. There's a guy. They're like, cut. I'm like, what? It looks like you're limping. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure my leg is broken. I'm definitely limping. But you can, and by the way, I'll pull up the shot one day. You can see it if you look close. Dylan, who likes to, basically try to probe me. But Dillon
wish.
reached under and he hooked
Reached
my,
under.
Wow, this is good.
Dillon did a reach around.
It's a reach
Dillon
around.
did a reach around. Dillon grabbed me by my belt and
Oh
he
my
gave me like a
God,
wedgie and he carried me to my mark.
You want to
can actually
see
it.
a
It looks
public
kinda weird.
assault that is in the Entourage
Right.
movie. But I
Dillon
mean,
probed me on film. How many people could say
We
that?
had this
I
in the
got
cutting
him-
edge with
I got him
Moira when
walking.
she broke her leg. And actually, one solution was genius. It made the scene better. Like, we go back to the hotel and she's hammered, but she couldn't walk. She had a boot, a cast on her foot. So they had me carry her piggyback and they put a massive fur coat on her because it's kind of silhouette. So it took your eye away from the cast.
Yeah.
It was genius. And it actually made the scene better because she's so hammered, she can't even walk. And then she comes onto my character, and it's like and he's like, I don't want to do this. You know, you kind of get it.
you know, it's amazing. You have no
scene.
options but to come up with something.
This
when
is,
stuff
this
happens.
is funny. This comes full circle because before we came on, we talked about, I don't know if we've been chatting, but when we were shooting the movie and we were rolling through the Warner Brothers lot in the Lincoln, we were rolling through in the Lincoln because my leg was broken. We were supposed to be walking. And because my leg was broken, Doug was like, why don't we just put him in the car and have the Lincoln rolling through the soundstage? So that's the only reason why the Lincoln was even there.
Can't get
So
too much of that car, though. That car.
Well,
yeah.
it's funny, not
They
that
love it.
not that wasn't a happy accident for me, but it actually aesthetically
Yeah.
was awesome to see the Lincoln rolling through because it wasn't there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, lots of times things like that happen and you come up with solutions. But I remember, you know, it's tough. I mean, first of all, he's one of my close friends, but I remember going, he could permanently damage his leg.
Well,
and
I
at the
did.
same time, you're right. We were not coming back. There was
Right.
no way.
I
Where's
knew
that car now? Who's got it?
Dillon was trying
You
to
know
buy it at
what?
one point.
I should have bought that car when I could have. I didn't have to buy that. With the guy, we were renting it from this guy, and now the guy's trying to sell it for like $1 million or whatever.
Do you know that Dillon said to me, you know what? After season 1, Dillon was like, you know what? If we come back, I'm going to buy that car and I'm going to rent it to production.
Yes.
To which I responded, that's the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. That would have been.
It would have been the greatest.
And not only that, it would have been just better if it was yours.
And I would have kept it in better shape. That thing had no brakes. The steering was off. It would overheat. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Finally, that guy put some money into it.
So you didn't have a backup one standing by?
Nope.
We had
That was
nothing
it.
backups.
That's amazing.
That was it. At one stage, I had the whole crew. I thought
That's
you might have been
amazing.
in there in the back. And when I was driving to Vegas, doing the Vegas bit, and I'm supposed to be drunk, I'm drinking Jack Daniels
cut
and
that.
driving.
They cut
which
the
is
drinking and
crazy.
driving.
Did we cut that?
Oh, but there's no you swigging the
I'm
bottle
like
while you're-
crying and I'm singing some song. I forget what song it was, but
Yo, so on the
and I'm
last
going.
day,
I can't see anything with the lights. I can't see the road. The brakes don't work. The steering's all over the place. I got guys hanging out of the Lincoln. I mean, it was like so dangerous.
You know what though? If I had to go with one guy behind the wheel of that Lincoln,
It's Dillon.
no questions. Dillon is the game 1 starter for driving the car
For sure.
But this is funny, and whatever. I'll say it because he ended up signing it, I believe. But the last day of shooting of the show, we're in the hangar in Van Nuys. Doug, I mean, come on, 200 people. By the way, it was like doing live television. By the way, it was like doing it in front of it was like a sitcom. There were so many people there to watch us shooting this last scene. And Dillon had befriended the guy that owns the Lincoln.
Yeah.
And Dillon comes over and he's like, yo, this guy wants everybody to sign
He wanted us
open
to
the glove
sign-
box and sign the. Now, right away, you go like, man, that jacks the price. You know what you're doing to it. And I'm going like, well, all right, who gives a fuck? What am I going to do? Ask him
I
for
mean,
a free
I was
ride?
like, yeah, the guy was all right to us.
Dillon comes up and is like, hey, guys.
I got him to do the inside. I think it was the inside
Which
of the
is
glove
a way
box.
better
I was like,
idea,
you do
'cause
not
it's-
want it right out here
No,
in
on
front.
the
It's
seats or
gonna-
something.
So you open up the glove box.
And there it
I-
is. And it'll protect the signatures
Of
as well.
course. And I believe Piven was the lone holdout.
Piven did not want to do it.
He didn't want to do it for
and
the
I
first
think he
instant.
may have done
He
it.
did it,
man,
but I think Jerry and I immediately were like, and Adrian's like, well, Adrian finally was like, all right, Adrian.
But then
signs it.
again, you know, his character never really spent any time in that Lincoln anyway. So
yeah,
I mean,
but it it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
for the,
it's
good
great
for
for
the
the
value.
car,
But I
no
think
doubt.
Piven was like the last minute holdout.
Did
and
he
then
sign
finally,
it?
yeah, he finally. I guess it's what's the upside? There's no.
God forbid the Lincoln guy makes an extra 10 grand when he sells the car.
exactly.
Come on.
yeah.
I mean,
I think that was the
Dillon
thought.
said, Jeremy, either your fucking signature or your brains are going to be on that contract. So.
Oh boy.
so
All right.
hey, speaking of that, I got a quick story. So I did this movie, Two Tickets to Paradise, with our friend McGinley and
Yeah.
Ed Harrison. Anyway,
You directed it,
I
wrote
directed
it.
it, wrote it, produced it, put the money up, lost my
Acted in
ass,
it.
the whole thing. Anyway,
course.
but the soundtrack is unbelievable, right? Because it's a road trip movie. I wanted to have the 80s rock and roll soundtrack. So anyway, so a friend of mine was friends with Bruce Springsteen's publicist. So he got me a Bruce Springsteen song super cheap.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, and then
a long time ago.
Which song? Which song is it?
When You're Alone. From Tunnel of Love, I think. Anyway,
Okay.
so I had met Springsteen at this at Ted Field's house at a party, and it was like 30 people at the party. Everybody there was famous, and I was like, "What? I'm going to get run out of this room here, but I got to say hi to Springsteen before I do." So I'm thinking of what can I say to say hello. And then just to hit and run and get out of there, not try to shake hands or hug or anything like that. So I just, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I come up with my line. And then he opens up. I know somebody walks away, Bonnie Raitt or something. And I walk over and I go, "Hey, Bruce, one of the many, just want to thank you for the music." And turn to go. Like that was, I was going to do any shit, right? And he goes, "Hey, you're the guy in the baseball movie." I was like, "Oh, there is a God."
As a matter of fact, I was in that baseball
and well,
movie.
John Sayles directed the video for Glory Days,
Oh, okay.
so that's why I didn't know that at the time. So anyway, we talked for like 40 minutes. 10 years later, people are looking over like, "Why is he talking to that idiot?" I'm more famous. And so 10 years later, I sent a letter and I said, "Hey, I'm doing this movie. It's about a guy from Pennsylvania. John McGinley's playing it. He's a New Jersey guy, and it's about your people. It's about your audience, and I wonder if you'd consider giving us a song." So he said yes, and he said yes, and he forced Sony to take this ridiculously low license fee. So the movie, there's a scene, like a visual vocal with Dire Straits, one of my favorite bands of all time.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's and we have to. The scene is like we say one. The song after the good song is called Scrudge. Like I invented that word as if that's going to become something people say. Right. So the whole scene is about. You never put a good song on an album after a shitty. You never put a good song after a great song because nobody will ever remember it. So you put a song in there to fall on the grenade.
A shitty buffer.
Yeah. So we had to call a Dire Straits song shitty, right? So it's an argument in the movie, but I need both songs because they're going to switch back. So Mark Knopfler, I asked him to do the score of the thing. I didn't know him, but I sent him a cold call, like, "Would you do the score?" And he liked the script. And he was like, "Nah, no score, but you can have a song." And I said, "I need 2 songs." And I go, "Okay." And then I jammed him on the Springsteen Favored Nations price. And he agreed, right?
Wow.
So, but the record labels, they slow roll you because they're hoping it goes away. And so anyway, I got to deliver the movie, and I don't have the rights from Mark Knopfler yet. So Paul Hipp, who was in the movie, he was friends with Malcolm McDowell, whose wife was best friends with Knopfler. Yeah. So we used all of this.
Entourage guy.
Interesting combo.
Yeah. So we get through, we get backstage at the Universal Amphitheater, his show, and the whole thing. We're backstage, and it's awesome. And I got the contracts with me. And so we talk for like 30 minutes, and it's great. And so finally, it's kind of wrapping up, and I say, "Hey, Mark, listen, I hate to do this, but do you mind signing these contracts?" And the manager comes over, and he's like, "Hey, we'll handle that later." And I was like, "We've been handling that later for 6 months. We kind of need to do it now." And so Mark was like, "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Hey, listen, Mark, it's your brains or your signature on the contract." and it was kind of like funny and maybe not funny. And the security guys kind of move in a little bit, and then he signed
Did he
them.
laugh?
He finally laughed, and then he signed, and we drank for another half hour. So
you pulled the contract out of your pocket and were like, "Yo, I need to sign."
Whoever didn't get the line, because I said it before, that's the Godfather line. So, but did Mark Knopfler, who I love, did he laugh?
He kind of, it was a little, he's not a big guy. And it was, McGinley's is bigger than me.
McGinley's a big boy.
And Paul Hipp is kind of, so the three of us kind of looming. And the security guy, so it was like, it might have been real. I don't know.
Threaten Mark Knopfler. I mean, that's
I hate to say it.
You muscled him. You brought in McGinley. You brought in.
with us, Stevie. So Matt Damon. We had Bono on early, U2 on early, and then Matt Damon says, "I want to bring Bono back for this scene with his charity." And Matt shoots his side of the phone call, which is on a computer, and Bono's on the other side of it. And Matt leaves, and I email Matt. I'm like, "Okay, so when's Bono ready to shoot?" And he doesn't respond to me. And I'm like,
Jesus.
We had like less than 3 weeks to finish.
It's
the
like getting ready
episode.
to air. You got to finish it. Yeah.
Getting ready to the episode, and I'm like, "Hello, Matt. Like, how do we get Bono?" So I have an empty computer screen where Adrian was talking to Bono. I think like Vince is talking to Bono.
Yeah,
and there's no Bono.
Drama and Vince are talking to Bono, right?
So my buddy Will McDonough, who's fucking nuts, is like, "I'm going to Ireland tomorrow to see U2. I'll get it done."
See, I would never think that could possibly happen. The story that DB just told him, what you're talking about, sounds crazy.
I'm literally like, "Thanks, Will. That's great." He's
Good
like,
luck.
Send
in Ireland."
Send me the script, okay? I'm like, all right. I sent him the script. I wake up in the morning. I have this video, like filmed nicely. They had Bono's people filmed it, so
Sure,
it
he's got some guys.
totally worked. But we have to use this for a social clip because no one directed him, no one told him what it is, and Bono is playing it like it's like some weird space movie. He's like, Vincent Chase, I need to talk to you. So I wake up at 7 a.m. I'm like, holy shit, Will McDonough got this done, and I look at this thing. I'm like, this is not usable. There's no way we could use it. So I text him. I go, Will, I need another take. I need to get on the phone with him. I need to tell him what to do, and he got it done. It was pretty wild.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah,
I mean, I would never. If
I wish Will
told me-
McDonough was my manager.
Will McDonough's a beast. He got Tom Brady for us also. So.
I mean, I just give bad advice to the Dillon with the Lincoln. If you said that to me, you're like, yo, I'm going to bring these contracts. I would say, buddy, do not pull those fucking contracts out backstage. It's going to be ridiculous. You're going to get laughed out.
Gutsy
of the
move,
room. It's
gutsy
a
move.
gutsy move.
I am
like it.
still
By the way, because
stunned,
you
though.
can't sign it. I would be like, whoa, dude, I give you my word. I'm going to sign. I get it. I'll sign it in the morning. I cannot.
Yeah, but the guy, I mean, he's not going to sit there and read it, right? I
Right,
mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, he could have signed anything.
Yeah.
It's a boilerplate. I
Right.
mean,
And for people that, that are
DB
listening.
took all of the licensing rights to
For people-
for every album.
For people that are listening that don't understand, getting music for movies, particularly from these big bands, is near impossible.
Yeah.
It's just not affordable.
No.
Right? So anytime you can...
You got to have guts.
You got to have guts, or you got to have a
Or you
personal
gotta probe 'em.
relationship.
You gotta
or
probe.
Or a probe. Guts or a nice probe.
You got to just probe them till they...
I love it.
A little
but
reach around.
Both those stories are great. But we should. I don't know if we wait till the episode. We'll show that Bono stuff. It's absolutely amazing because it's funny as shit. But all right,
this has been great.
Yeah.
No,
you got the Mets hat on. You can't let us go without Irish night. Irish night.
Oh,
at Shea.
yeah. This is funny.
Oh
Just
boy.
go out on this.
So it's Irish night at Shea, and they have like Irish bands. I think
I'm sure there were no fights that night.
Oh, man, it was probably so many fights.
the hair on the back of my neck stood up when I said that. I'm like, oh my God. It
They
sounds
had
like
bands
The
like
Jews
sounds like
stayed home that
me
night, by the
getting
way.
beat up and having a bad hangover and getting beat up. That's how that night
They had
sounds.
bands like the Dropkick Murphys or
Yes,
whatever.
I know.
Yeah, like
Flogging
before the
Mollies
game, they
or
had like
whatever.
a concert.
Just aggressive. It
was great.
Major aggression. So what did
Anyway,
Dillon
I'm
do?
over there with my buddy Magoo, and we're sitting in a beautiful suite. And we're watching the game, and I hear, "Hey, Dillon, you whip, you pussy!" And I'm like, "Yeah, just ignore that." There's always drunks at these games. And it just wouldn't let up. It was like it went on and on and on. It's like, "You suck, you!" And I'm like, and I was like, "All right, that's enough." And I look over and I look down, and who is it? It's Stevie with Billy Devlin.
Oh my God. So for
Yelling at me, I'm like, "Oh, get up here!"
Yo, so for like the first half hour, you're like, just ignore him. Whatever.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't that long. But
Whatever.
it was
Finally,
good.
you're like,
well, we
good
were
30 seconds of them berating me. And I finally said,
Billy
"Who
is-
the hell is
No,
this?"
we were having a food and beverage emergency though because it was Irish night, and so normally they turn off the beer in the 7th inning, but because Dropkick Murphys or whoever played before, everybody was lit. It was
we
ballroom
gotta kill
brawls in
this
the
in the
third,
fifth.
the
Right.
5th inning. They turned
start
off the
drinking
beer.
early.
Is that true?
Absolutely, and so
Now it's before the first
By the
for
way,
Irish
only
night.
Irish night. That
Irish
shut
night.
it down to
They
the
shut
fifth
it
inning,
down.
which is
We had a
crazy.
great suite, and I was
Yes.
like, "All right, come on up here." So I don't know how
When
you
was
guys
this?
got up there because you can't really just move up.
yeah,
like,
we
you know.
we
When
worked
was
it.
this? When was
Well, we
this?
got you into
What
the
year would you
suite
say
somehow.
this is? Like
Man, that had to be
90s, right?
25,
Oh my
28
Do they still
years
have
ago.
Irish
I
night?
mean,
They can't even have
I don't
it.
think they can get insurance.
no, that's like bat day at Yankee Stadium, and they used to give out bats, baseball bats. They don't do that.
who was
shit
who was
anymore.
behind that promotion? Like, I mean, how many people got clubbed at Yankee Stadium?
Oh my God! It's like at Woodstock '99 when they gave out candles to everyone,
God.
and they just burned the place.
Did you watch
down.
that doc?
The documentary's insane.
I'm-
Did you
three
see this?
episodes?
Oh,
of this.
it's nuts. It's on Netflix, I think. It's nuts.
It's called Woodstock '99, the train wreck, or something like
it's
that.
just sheer
so
mayhem, lawlessness, and it's like Lord of the Flies.
I'm sure you heard about 10-cent beer night because that happened at didn't that happen at Comiskey?
Oh,
Didn't
yeah,
that happen
absolutely.
At,
Yeah,
you hear
yeah,
that
yeah,
story?
yeah.
10-cent beer night is a great story. YouTube that one because I don't want to.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
I heard
long
about
story,
that,
but
yeah.
it's let's
they
say
do a
10-cent
doc?
beer night didn't go. It wasn't a great promotion. They didn't come back for a year or two.
At the Comedy Store when I used to do stand up on Monday nights, they started doing no cover, 2 free drinks. Can you
Yeah.
imagine, like, you're getting up amateur stand-ups in front of a bunch of fucking drunk lunatics who didn't pay their bar bill? And I walked on one. I used to wear, like, I used to wear, like, a leather jacket. And I came on, and, like, all these guys like, it's fucking Fonzie, And, like,
what do you think, you Dice Clay?
exactly. So.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, well,
Good
DB,
stuff.
this was
Irish
great.
night. My God.
Oh, that was fun.
I
What
might have been an
epic night, epic night.
honorary Mets fan for that one.
Oh, yeah.
They
You know,
never had-
by
You
the
might have
way,
switched over.
Since you brought up both of them, and all of these people have come on, did you see the people who were drafted in Major League Baseball after Russell Wilson? Did you see this list that I sent you the other day? Did you look? Aaron Judge was drafted after Russell Wilson.
Wow.
Jacob deGrom was drafted after Russell Wilson.
Baseball's harder to gauge. It's not
Yeah,
like
well,
basketball,
Or maybe
Yeah.
Russell would have been
or even
great.
hockey.
Yeah.
for that
Maybe he
matter.
should retire
He
football
probably
now
would have
and
been.
play. He should probably-
You know, the one in hockey is Tom Glavine, the Hall of Fame pitcher for the Braves.
Played hockey?
He was drafted in the first round ahead of Brett Hull.
That's
No way.
amazing.
So Glavine probably could have been an all-star hockey player
That's
too.
right.
He-
I did not know that.
One of the great hockey, one of the great
kinda
athletes.
Nuts. That's kind of nuts to think about because Glavine. I don't know. I don't think of him like he would be a hockey player. He looks like just a precision pitcher. But
He was
that's
top.
Brett
top
Hull.
10,
was a
top
Brett
10.
Hull, who we
Was a
hang out with all the time
Yeah.
at Chris Chelios' golf event. He's got the biggest hands you've ever seen. These big, meaty hands.
I saw his hands.
And his
I
dad, too.
don't know if
No
he still
better guy
listens
in
to
the
the
bar.
podcast, but I saw his hands around Andrew Left one night at the Gaza Ranch. But they're
Oh,
friends.
shit.
But it was fun. A
Dillon
couple of
prefers
drinks.
probing an anal.
Oh, but those hands, forget about it.
DB,
All right.
this was
DB
great.
Sweeney.
Davey, you're the
Everybody-
best. When you come back, we got to have
I
you
love
back
it, man.
on.
We
It's
could have
so
done. We
fun.
could have done 2 hours here. It's
Oh,
crazy.
no doubt. No doubt.
Really great to see you guys. Thank
Yeah.
you so much
Thanks
for
for
having me
coming
Thank
in.
You got it, brother. You
Absolutely.
got it,
And,
man.
that wraps up another episode of Victory the Podcast. I'm Doug Ellin.
See ya.
Later.
Losers.